what is the best way to learn good course management and shot selection? And that's come from the Barnes family, which I imagine is Brackley Barnes, John Barnes and crew down there in Lelant. What's the best way to learn course management and shot selection? Rhys, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think it's practice with trial and error. Obviously, on the golf course, you need to get out on the golf course. I know you can't often hit numerous shots from the same place because of divots and stuff, but you can definitely set up scenarios. Whether it's a tough enough course, or you can even make your own pin position and imagine you're hitting a certain shot to try and learn what happens. What happens to yourself when you try and hit a certain shot with a certain situation that you've either imagined or that's in front of you. I've actually started using this thing called the decade system. Scott Fawcett is an American guy who sort of set this up, and it's basically a strategic system that removes the thought process out of it. So obviously you can use it as and when you need, but it's a strict system that it takes into account what's up at the green, and then it will tell you your target is 9 yards right of the pin, or it's straight out the pin, or it's 5 right of the pin, depending on whether there's hazards out of bounds or there's no trouble. Which is I really like that, because it really takes the thought out of, because I'm as bad as anybody. I see a pin and I just want to go for it wherever it is. But when you've got a system that says, look, the statistics will say this is the miss that you need to draw into the shot is 10 yards or 12 yards or 13 yards. Then if you go at a tight pin from 200 yards, then that's essentially a really stupid thing to do unless you're in the zone and absolutely flushing it. So as a junior, I would just get onto the golf course and just hit shots for different winds, different flags, and imagine that there's water on the next to the green. I know in Cornwall we don't have that luxury. There is not often a hazard either side of the green, but just use your imagination.
Yeah, that's, again, great advice. And that system, is that did you call it the decade system?
Sorry, yeah, DECADE, yeah, decade system. If you can look on that. He's on Twitter. He's quite big on Twitter, but yeah, it's just I'll send you. I'll screenshot my course planner, and you can send it out to the guys just for a visual.
Yeah, perfect. That'd be perfect. Harry, best way to learn good course management and good shot selection? Anything to add?
I rank where to miss it around the greens. So say one bunker around the green might be better than the other bunker. I'll rank it from 1 to 5. 5 being really hard, 1 being really easy. So I know Decade touches on that and does a lot of it. Yeah. I kind of have my own little things that I do. So I just rank the green from 1 to 5 being like, if it's short-sided, really, how hard it is. And if it's short-sided and it's really easy, I'll give it a 1. If it's short-sided and not good, it's a 5. When I mark it as 6, normally I'm dropping a ball out the hazard. Another thing that a simple thing, if you can't pull off the shot above, 75% of the time, don't play it. That's kind of a little rule that I've kind of got stuck into my head. And I think, once you come across a shot and you can only pull it off 25% of the time, you go and practice it until you can pull it off 75% of the time and hit it. And I think a lot of people misunderstand our intentions as professionals, because most of the time when we hit a good shot to a tight pin, most of the time we pulled it. We weren't actually aiming to that pin. We're aiming in the middle of the green, and our dispersion would be on the right side of the green or the left. And if we hit a great shot, it would be 20 feet. And most of the time we subconsciously pull it and it goes to 3 feet, and everyone thinks it's a fantastic shot. But in our heads, we really didn't mean to do it. So, 75% of the time, I think that's a good rule. If you can't do it 75% of the time, then just lay up. You'll save yourself some shots.
Yeah. I was watching a replay of the Open Championships with Shane Lowry, and I'm sure his caddy said near enough the same thing about one of those par 3s on the last few holes that, you know, he told him to aim to the middle of the green and he just pushed it ever so slightly, but the push was a great shot, you know. So, yeah, that rings true.
Dispersion's a massive thing. You know, aim at a point in the green where you know that you push it or you pull it, it's still going to be on the green. You know, if you aim for that pin, you know, directly at it and it's tucked on the right side, your dispersion could be in the bunker right or the middle of the green or next to the pin. So just make sure that you're aiming right, and you're always think of a bad shot and your dispersion of an 8 iron, it could be 15 yards or 10 yards, and then you can aim in the middle of the green, you've got the whole green. If you aim at that pin, then it brings a bunker into play. But, you know, if you're on the last hole of the tournament and you need a birdie to win, then that 75% of the rule goes out the window, and you want to try and hit it close. But yeah, most of the time, that's a good rule, I think.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And just a very quick one on that. I remember, I think must have been a Southwest boys. It was up at Weston-super-Mare with yourself, Harry. And I remember you walking around a golf course with a yardage chart you'd done up, marking on the numbers around the green as well. So it's nice to see some of these things you've done as a junior in the past, you're still doing them now, and obviously to a greater extent. So yeah, it's fantastic. Emily, good course management from your point of view, anything to add?
Agree with kind of what the guys have said already. I mean, I have my own kind of process that I do around the greens, just like a miss map. So finding an area at which you can access the most pins, like if you know there's a back right pin, where's the miss that's going to allow you, you know, the best access to that flag. So similar to what the guys have already spoken about, I just think, you know, for the juniors, you know, it's really critical to know how far you hit your clubs, like simple things like that. You know, when you're trying to lay up to a water hazard, if you don't know, you know, what sort of numbers you're hitting each club, how do you know where to lay up? So I think first and foremost is to kind of try and really get some good solid numbers for each club, and that'll just be, you know, really beneficial for layups, for going for greens. You know, again, like if you're going for the middle of the green and you get the club wrong, you're now going to end up in the middle of the green but a club out, and you're going to end up quite a long way from the flag. So, you know, if you're going for the middle of the green, you get the number right, you're probably maximum going to be 20, 25 foot away from a flag. So for me, kind of getting really dialed in with your numbers. I think if you kind of visualize playing the course or playing a hole backwards, so trying to start at the green, work out where you want it to be based on the green, and then plot it back so that you know where to hit from the fairway, things like that. What else about course management? I think, again, managing expectations, like Harry was kind of saying, you don't have to go for every pin. You don't want to short side yourself and then leave yourself a really difficult chip. So actually middle of the green sometimes is a good shout. But again, just getting on the course, playing different shots, and just, yeah, trial and error.
Yeah. Can I add something just quickly? I ranked the fairways as well. This is important. At Portmarnock in the British Am this summer, I think it was the second hole, and you know, the fairways are pretty thin. They're probably like 25 yards wide, and if you missed it on the left for about 20 yards in the rough, it was fine. I ranked it like a 2 or a 3, so I could still get onto the green. But if you missed it 1 yard to the right of the fairway, you could lose your ball. So even though that could be considered a better shot, if you missed the fairway by a yard, it was, you know, a much tougher second shot. So I also rank up the side of the fairways 1 to 5 regarding how easy it is to get to the green. So that's another thing.
Yeah. It gives me some new ideas and maybe refreshes some ideas when I'm sort of designing these county academy sessions, but we'll definitely be doing some of those thoughts. So thank you all very much on that one. Moving on to a question that was sent in by an ex-junior who's now our county president, Mr. Andrew Clockworthy. He was inquiring about how much does it cost to be a tour player? How much does it cost to be a top amateur And I had a few other questions from juniors about the same thing. So I don't know if it was their parents worrying about the costs or not. But if we had a fairly generic answer to this, and I'm going to start with you, Emily, how much in your mind, and you don't have to get too exact, but how much in your mind does it cost to be a top amateur golfer that is targeting global competitions?
Yeah, I'm gonna say anywhere really, probably between sort of 400 or 500 up to 1,000, 1,200. Obviously, it depends if you're going to go into Europe to play events. Then obviously it's going to be up that higher end.
That's each tournament, isn't it, Emily?
What's that?
Is that each tournament? Each
per tournament, yeah, per tournament. So that's obviously like, you know, your petrol and your travel. Obviously, it depends if you're going to fly or you're going to drive. So like for me, I would always try and drive if I can. We drive to Scotland, you know, every year. I think last year we drove to Scotland 3 times. It's a bit of a nightmare, but it's you know, instead of flying and then hiring a car. So we try and do it the cheapest way possible. But that for me is probably the bracket. And then again, accommodation, you know, you can stay in. I know the pros and that they have like official accommodation where they have shuttles and stuff. Or you just stay somewhere and travel. But yeah, that for me is the range.
Right, perfect. Thank you. Shall we go, Harry? To you, out in America, and again, I don't want to delve into your personal finances, but just to give our juniors a sense of how much it costs to be on the same tour as you, and the implications.
I'll go back to my Cornwall days quickly.
Okay.
I remember getting into that Southwest under 16 training camp, and it was in can't think of the name now. Emily, where do you go and do that ACE training? Cornwall Park.
Cornwall Park, yeah, that's where we did it.
In Gloucester. I remember going up there, and the first 2 years I did it, from 14 to 16, it was free, all expenses paid. And the last 2 years, I remember there were 10 sessions throughout the winter, and we had to come up with our own finances. So that used to cost about £300 per weekend for 10 weekends in the winter to go up and stay around Cornwall Park, and to, you know, fuel up and back, and to see John Jacobs. And that was thoroughly worth doing. But I know that's £3,000. And then I remember going through budgets with mum and dad, and I'd do it all up, because I was kind of proactive in that way, and I'd map out my season and then approach mum and dad and say, you know, and I was lucky that dad took me everywhere, and mum, you know, paid for most things. And between the two, I think it would cost us about £5,000 to £8,000 a summer to kind of go to the British Am, or the Carrish Trophy, the McGregor Trophy, the Henry Cooper, and they're all the biggest under 18 events that would get me into those national squads. So I probably, from the age of 14 to 18, I'd spend between £3,000 to £8,000 a summer traveling with dad, fuel, business expenses, etc. And then as years goes on, if you can get to those under 18 teams, then most of your expenses are covered, right, Emily? Like, they kind of help you out, maybe give you £1,000 to £3,000 a year, and if they take you on, you know, to the European Team Championships, and they have team events playing the British Am, etc., then most of that gets a little bit cheaper. But I know starting off 5,000 to 8,000, if you're between age 16 and 18, you really want to give it a good shot in the amateur circuit. That's how much it's going to cost, and that's probably 6 to 8 events in the summer. Now it's a little bit different. I mean, January and February, I bought a TrackMan, and together my business expenses were $42,000, and that's within the first 2.5 months. And I remember I turned pro in September and entered European Tour Q School and Cornwall Tour Q School, and travelled around, and I spent $30,000 with my visa as well. So since I've turned pro, with the commission on contracts and stuff, yeah, it's pretty expensive. But I'm in a good boat now, because I've kind of, at my level, starting out with the Cornwall Tour and European Tour, it kind of, your expenses stay the same for the rest of your career, especially as a professional. But the more money you can make, the better. So I guess your business expenses me personally are probably going to be pretty similar, looking to be about, 100,000 a year, traveling to 25 events. And but I think that will maintain 100,000 a year no matter what I make on the golf course. So, yeah.
Is that with a caddy, H, or is that without a caddy?
That's without a caddy, really. I'm paying, I paid Matt Richards a little bit for winning at the Dunhill, and caddy at Q School cost $1,500 for the week. So yeah, that is with a caddy, but not a permanent caddy.
Rhys obviously touched on it then. Have you got a full-time caddy with you on your staff, or?
No, not on the Challenge Tour. You can't earn enough. Well, if you're earning enough to warrant a caddy, then you're graduating straight to the European Tour. So, I mean, the Challenge Tour some events are in the UK, some events I can drive to in France, say, or this side of Europe. So, I mean, I put down, I suppose you could probably do a Challenge Tour event with no caddy for £500, but that's getting 3 or 4 of you to share accommodation, and or share the driving, share the fuel, and then it could go all the way up to £5,000. We got an event in China. Well, you've got to fly to China and you've got to stay for a week, 2 weeks, and you can't always then stay in the cheapest accommodation because you don't really know what you're getting. So, I mean, it can range, it can go silly, I mean, but yeah.
South Africa, mate. South Africa costs
cheap.
not if you stay in that host hotel and fly from over here.
No,
that cost me like $7,000 for that trip to enter the European Tour as well.
Yeah, but that was coming from the States as well, mind. But yeah.
Yeah, but I made 21, so I guess.
Hey.
Small.
But that's
fry.
it really varies. To do it as cheaply as possible with no caddy, with cheap accommodation, you can do it anywhere from £500 where it's really close, or probably 1,000, maybe just over. And then on the main tour, as H said, you have to have a caddy. So then your minimum expense is probably going to be 2,000 at a minimum, and then you're looking at up to 10K for long haul flights and for nicer accommodation, when sometimes you've got no option but to pay £200 a night because that's all they have. So it can be quite steep.
I think the moral to that story is to make sure you make the cut and get a paycheck at the end.
Definitely, yeah, that is the moral of every story.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So let's get away from finances and into another lovely question by a young lad called Archie Ridgewell. Are you superstitious when you play golf? And if so, what are they? What are your superstitions? So, do we have lucky socks, lucky golf balls? You never tee up with a red tee peg? Any superstitions? Emily, do you want to go first for this one?
Yeah, probably too many to go through, to be fair. I'm super superstitious. I only warm up with even clubs. I would only use even ball numbers if I had a choice, but I'm not paying for a dozen balls and only using 6, so I'll happily have to use them all. What else do I do? If I don't, I'll always start with 6 tee pegs in my pocket and 2 ball markers, and I'll always use 1 ball marker until stuff doesn't happen, and then that ball marker's gone back in the bag and I'm happily use the other. Also, there's so many, I could be here all night. I think I've actually got OCD like normal world, so there's too many. There's literally too many to go through.
Go through all of them. I'm intrigued. I
noted. I always have to sink a 10-footer before I leave that putting green to go to the first tee.
Oh no, you could be there for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I have to allow good enough. I would rather stay there and allow a good amount of time and make sure I get it than walk to that tee knowing that I hadn't done it. Do you know what I mean? This is OCD. This is more than superstition.
But Emily, does all this not create tension though? Like, surely, this builds up tension for when you get to the first tee. If you've just taken 5 minutes now with 10 footers, surely you're just going to be a bit more anxious than if you hold it.
It's just so routine now. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I have to think about it. I just do it now. It's so it doesn't really cause any I don't think it causes any stress anyway, because it's just natural. You know, I mean, I don't actually have to think about it. If I had to think about it, then yeah, it probably would be. But for me, it's just the routine I go through. But it's pretty bad. Like, I shouldn't just be warming up with like 8 irons, 6 irons and that. I should actually be using clubs that might actually be helpful for the golf course. But I'm pretty sure I actually have OCD in like the normal world. So that will be enough for now.
Talk us through your pre-round routine before you get to the golf course. You have to like do your certain stretches in a certain place, or what is it? Do you have like superstitions?
That's okay. No, fine with that. Like, obviously I do like the same thing, but you know, if I didn't do it, you know, dead on like 58 minutes to my tee time, I'd be okay.
Certain amount of sleep like the night before?
No, that's okay for me, not bothered about that. I'm a phone clicker, so I like to click my phone so many times before I turn it off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to flick off light switches and stuff like that.
What do you mean what do you mean you click your phone?
Like I lock it and unlock it a few times.
Just imagining juniors now doing all these things.
I know, please don't do that because it's not beneficial. But
6 tees, 2 ball markers, only 8 irons at warm up. Harry, any? Well, hopefully gone. You can add if you've got any others.
I haven't got any, Matt.
You haven't got any? No.
I warm up. I have routines. I mean, depending on the month of the day of the month. So, like, if it's the 5th of May, I'll warm up with odds. If it's the 6th of May, I'll warm up with evens just to keep them balanced, you know. But that's it.
That's very cool.
Yeah, good one. Rhys, superstitions?
Not really. I tend to use the same marker and the same pitch repairer. I got a pitch repairer from Wales Golf. They presented us, or our European team. When my brother died, they gave us a memorabilia pitch mark, which is pitch repair, which is really cool. So I always use that. My mum made me some markers with my nickname on, so I use them. They're 5 different colours, but I use them. I mean, I just do this. I use the same things, but I don't really. I suppose the only small superstition is I don't really like coloured tees. I love a white tee. So yeah, if every now and again, I know you did touch on a red tee. I for some reason I see a red tee and I'm just like, no, I'll believe that one. I'll just get the white one. But that's about it.
Just me then. I'm the only nutter.
Yeah. You definitely have got a lot more things going on, Emily, than the guys. So,
yeah, I mean, I could be here forever probably talking about. If I actually thought about what I do, I could be here forever.
Yeah, that'd be a separate one altogether. Moving then swiftly on to another ex-junior who you all probably know very well. This one's been sent in by Ian Veal down at Tahiti. How do you do, and I don't know if he's asking this for himself, which he might well be, but how do you deal with playing golf with global superstars that you've watched on TV? So, Emily, go on, you can start us off with this one. How do you deal with, these global superstars that you've seen growing up as kids on TV, and then lo and behold, you're playing against them? Any advice?
Yeah, for me, well, probably not come into that much contact, to be honest, just because obviously the only 2 is obviously from the 2 majors. But I played with Georgia Hall in a practice round, and I played with Paula Creamer in a practice round. And like at the end of the day, that they're really not concerned what you're doing. Like, you think that they are watching you and they're judging you, and they're literally just getting on with what they're doing. So I think it's more about you rather than, what you think of them. So for me, you just got to keep your processes, keep your routine, do what you would normally do, and just don't pay much attention. At the end of the day, they're just human beings that are talented at what they do. But at the end of the day, that's where you want to be as well. So you almost have to see yourself as an equal.
Yeah, sounds good. Rhys, anything? How's Ian going to deal with playing golf next time when he plays against you?
Yeah, you know, I think it's all, you know, when you see the guys on TV and, you know, you get to the level that we're at, and it's what we're aspiring to be. And the more time I'm around these guys, as you know, as Emily said, first they don't care about you, and you've just got to not care about them. You know, and just do your own thing. You know, get into your routines, and like I like to adapt the feeling. Like my mum used to say, like when she performed on stage, she was a different person, and I feel like I try and go into that mode. Like when I'm like playing at the Open, the US Open, when I got some good draws, you know, you just stick your chest on, and you know, you act like you belong, because you do belong, because you're there. You know, like the guys watching from the sidelines, you know, you're almost the same as the, you know, the Rorys, the Patrick Reeds, or, you know, whoever. So just, you know, just act like you belong, and I feel like that really gave me more confidence to just play how I play, and that really helped, really.
Good. Harry, any thoughts on playing against these global superstars?
Act like you're a global superstar. Don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Believe that you're better than them. Believe that you're gonna, you know, beat them. Don't do anything different. Act like you're a superstar every single day you wake up. No matter if you're at St Andrews playing with Roy McIlroy, or you're at West Cornwall Golf Club on the chipping green, or Truro Golf Club on the putting green. You know, act like you're a superstar. Believe that you're gonna be a superstar, and when you're there, you're gonna be ready. I remember having dinner with Matt Wallace the night before I played with Roy McIlroy, because at the Dunhill Links they have like for all the amateurs on the Saturday night, it's like the end of their golfing. So there's like a big party and fireworks, and there's a big dinner, and it's a fancy dinner. And I got seated next to Matt Wallace, and he goes, "Who are you playing with tomorrow?" And I go, "Roy McIlroy." And he told me about his story playing at Carnoustie in the Open for the first time with Tiger Woods, and he got paired with him in the first 2 rounds. And I think there's a moment where if you're off the course, you can be a sponge, like we talked about, and really, you know, if I was to see Tiger Woods walking down the street, I'd be very different than if I was teeing it up against him, you know, because, you know, 1, I want to learn when I'm not on the golf course, and 2, I want to beat him. So I think it's key. Matt Wallace said, no matter what you do tomorrow, go out there and beat him and show him how good you are, because he remembers playing with Tiger Woods, and he was caught up in the aura of just playing golf with him, and he didn't really focus on himself. And, you know, he thought Tiger could be watching him. He was watching Tiger, and he wished that he showed Tiger how good he was. So that's what Matt Wallace told me that Saturday night before I teed it up that Sunday morning. Show Rory how good you are, and then reflect after the round on how cool it was to play with Rory McIlroy, and take what you learned after the round. But whilst you're there playing against him, believe that you're good enough, and show him how good you are. And that's exactly what I did. I turned up on the tee, didn't act like it was Rory McIlroy, treated him like I would anyone else if I was playing at West Cornwall Golf Club, or, you know, anywhere. And I played great, and I reflected after the round how good it was. And I guarantee if it wasn't for Matt Wallace, then I would have gone out there and tried to learn from Rory, and really tried to take it all in and see how good he is and what he does well. But for those 18 holes, I was so focused on what I was doing and what I could do to do the best and perform the best I could, and reflected on it afterwards. And I think you just got to believe that you're great no matter who you're playing with at any given time, and not treat it as a different occasion. You know, the more work you can do to make your social games and the games at West Cornwall Golf Clubs and the junior matches so amped up, the easier it'll be to play in the McGregors and the Carrish Trophies and the Walker Cups and not feel that intimidated.
Great again. Absolutely great. And let's hope some of our juniors can put that into practice straight away, and again build up to those people as you've all mentioned there. So it's